Cool. Thank you guys so much for coming here today. Really appreciate it. So why don't we get to know each other a little bit because we don't really know each other. Cool. So introduce yourselves if you want to start or if you want to start.
I will go first.
Cool.
My name is Gabrielle Aguilar. I go by Gabby. I lead our research and education team at the UvA Green Office, and I am a first-year research student in the Faculty of Humanities.
Awesome. Cool. What about you?
So I'm Ivan, and I come from the Czech Republic. Gotta represent my country because we are very tiny and nobody knows about us. So now I'm doing the European Policy Masters, and I did European Studies Bachelors in the past, and I'm for the Green Office representing the campus team. So
That's really cool. That's really cool. So you're both part of the UvA Green Office. You're both working there. How long have you guys been working there, participating in what they do?
Yeah, so I've been a part of the UvA Green Office since the beginning of September. That has also marked the journey of my time at UvA, my time in Amsterdam, a huge structural shift in my life. Ivan.
Yeah, no, I also am part of the Green Office since September as Gabby, but I've been involved with the Green Office last year when since I was a member of the Central Student Council. I had some sustainability portfolio, catering portfolio on my back, so we did some collaborations with the Green Office, and they were super helpful, and we managed to push some initiatives through. And so I thought after that year maybe it would be a good opportunity to just focus on the sustainability part within the university, and I think I was done with the just politics part, so it was a natural development for that sake. Yeah.
Nice. So the UvA Green Office, to a person like me who doesn't know anything about anything, what the hell is it?
Well, the Green Office is basically, or channel. The concept of Green Office emerged around, let's say, I would say around in Europe in 2015 or even before, where sustainability became a very much debated issue and not only became politicized, but of course students were the ones who on the idol of Greta Thunberg started to march for more measures. And so students on universities demanded some more sustainability departments and initiatives, and Green Office as such, as a concept, is basically that, should represent should bring change to campuses, should find solutions, and as sustainability goes, it touches upon so many fields. So I guess that's the Green Office in general. But then the UVA's office is should fulfill that role to bring sustainable ideas into the campus, to connect people, and
we have four core teams, if you will, at the UvA Green office here, and so we are split up into campus, like Yvonne has mentioned, research and education in my space, and communications as well as community. And so these are like the sort of core pillars that we center ourselves around, and each of us have our individual teams that have these individual goals that facilitate this sustainability conversation in various ways, whether that's through the waste systems on campus or the courses that you're taking on sustainability related academia. So
awesome. So are you guys more sort of in the action element of helping with sustainability and things like that, or more so in the aspect of like consulting and recommending things to other people to implement? So do you implement the things that you suggest, or do you have to convince a body to implement those?
Yeah, we definitely have to convince bodies.
I think I would sort of split the Green Office into, maybe Gabby will disagree, but maybe not, like internal stuff and external stuff that goes at the university. So for example, as in campus leader, I think that's very much internal stuff, and we are very much only talking to the bodies of the university, because without them we cannot really implement a change unless we can do some, let's say, vandalism and stick stickers around the campus and do some demonstration or revolution. We have to communicate with facility services, with people who are taking care of the canteens, cafeterias, the waste management. And so as it goes, UvA is a huge institution. You know, you have 40K students. And so you have various different campuses, and with that comes a lot of bureaucracy, and with that comes a lot of politics as well, for which UvA is known. There's a really strong mandate for the central student councils and the faculty student councils. And on the other hand, that's something that the Green Office does not have. So we do not have any rights of initiative or right of consent on certain policies. This goes very much on the student council level. But maybe with the research and education.
Yeah, I'd say in the research and education space, where we're specifically focused on taking a look at how we're discussing sustainability in a wide variety of courses and what sort of programs we're offering. There is this space where we're invited to have a say in that conversation and sort of embody this student perspective. But again, the final decision goes far up a chain of command, if you will. Yeah. And so while, we can say as much as possible and try to speak on behalf of other students, at a certain point it leaves our hands and goes further up.
Cool. I really find it interesting that you have these sort of different teams. So you said you have the research and education one, community one?
Community.
I know there's 4.
Communications
and
campus.
And campus. Okay, your campus and your research and education.
Yeah.
Cool. So from what I understand from the research and education committee or sort of group, it's really focused on building up what the other committees do, kind of. So you kind of structure the research and figure out the best way to do something based on what's available, and then also figure out how to best educate people about it.
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah, and that can take space in such a wide variety of ways, from like actually sitting in a classroom with a lecturer at UvA, learning about the climate crisis or learning about circular economies, or watching a workshop that a member puts on our social media, or inviting guest speakers who are working in a wide variety of careers in sustainability to teach students about what this journey could look like in a wide variety of spaces. And so while we have these sort of distinct teams, we all are sort of, we're working towards the same goal, and we're going to lay into each other's spaces. And I think that's what keeps everything harmonious, if you will, and balanced.
Some sort of like synergy in between all of these different individually acting committees, kind of. Yeah. So what about the campus committee? Is it more so focused on the things like problems within campus, or how is that?
Yeah, I think it goes again. It's the campus. I would call it, let's say, everything physical that has to do, or tangible that has to do with the campus, and maybe as a little bridge to research and education. I mean, the UvA is now a great one of the biggest publishing university in all the academic journals on sustainability, and so again there's all our proposals for the campus basically are coming from research and education as by default, and we are basing our ideas on the academic researches or proposals that we get from these talks, from these people who come to speak to our media, and basically what the campus entails, or all the campuses. Again, UvA, we have the Science Park, Routers Island. That's probably the most common one. But there are the older buildings in the center, or PC Hoofdhuis at the Spouw. So we have a lot of buildings, and I think that there's this problem which arises because we want to implement more sustainable policies, but then sort of buildings which are older are very unsustainable, and there is again a clash with a cultural value of those buildings. You know, you cannot just rip off the glass, the windows, and put a plastic ones there, which is a very legitimate argument. But we have to, as a university, sort of think about that. And again, here comes the research where we have to, and this is not only the Green Office that operates with it. This is the facility services, our people who are working around the university. But sort of this heating problem could be one of the things that we are looking into, or we should tackle in the future. Then we are looking at the waste management at the university, and sort of this year's initiatives is to really not only show the university's waste management, but it's also to show the Amsterdam's waste management, because as I think most of us are not only Dutch but internationals, but we live in Amsterdam, and I as an individual, I only noticed that last year during COVID they put out the plastic bins at the recycling parks. I don't know if you've noticed, but suddenly they disappeared. So I was like, oh well, I cannot recycle plastic anymore. But eventually it's more complex than that. The city, the company that is running the waste management is separating it at the end station or end point, because they don't trust the people in recycling. And then you have the whole aspect of what can be recycled, what can't. Maybe we can get into that later when I will talk about the cafeteria. But just to finish this point, it really is tracking, or our aim is to minimize the waste. This is something that we're concerned at the campus. We really see huge amounts of waste at the campus every day, from
coffee cups.
From coffee cups.
Yeah, this is reusable.
We are trying to
Get yourself on it.
we are trying to implement these Billy cups. Of course, they're not the only company that does it. They're very popular at the Wageningen University completely now. And so this is an example of a solution, a sustainable solution which works on multiple institutions, and it's possible. So, yeah.
I think like one thing that's so important about what Yvonne has said is, you know, there is obviously like, yes, get reusable cups, yes, recycle, and there's all these actions that we can take to hold ourselves as individuals accountable, but we also are doing the work to hold institutions accountable, from UvA decision makers and beyond too. So it really is a tenfold sort of initiative that's not just focusing on this individual, but the institution.
That's awesome. And so again, just to find the differences between these two committees, I'd say your Committee of Research and Education is more focused on the theory aspect, and then the campus committee is more focused on the practical aspect or the application of that theory.
Sure.
Is that a right comparison, or?
It can be, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is for a communication science program. So if I was a communication science student and I was going to say, I really want to engage in the sustainability conversation at the academic level, does UvA offer that? Then we could go to this directory and look at all of these sustainability courses from a wide variety of disciplines, and actually there's none on communication science. And so my job, or our job, is to have a conversation then and say, how can we bring sustainability to this discipline? Because sustainability is so much more than just these like scientific pieces of it. It's policy, it's policy, law, but it's it's mental health conversations, it's history, it's so much more than just one facet.
Yeah.
And if we are going to position ourselves as a university that is kind of paving the way in this realm of sustainability, our course offerings should reflect that. And so, we engage in those conversations and try to spread awareness of what we do have, like what kind of courses we are offering and things like that, so that it's an accessible conversation, but it's also a diverse conversation.
Yeah. That's really awesome. I think I was taking a look at your website actually, And on there, I noticed you have something called the Knowledge Hub. Could maybe one of you guys explain?
I would love to.
Here's the boss.
Yeah, the Knowledge Hub is sort of like, this is what I always call it. It's like a brainchild of the research and education team. And so while it has been put forward by the UvA Green Office, it exists as its own entity. And so the Knowledge Hub is centered around creating, communicating, and collaborating. And so not only does it aim to foster this space where people can come together and collaborate on sustainability related projects, but also like businesses, or if there's events in sustainability, there's a space to say, hey, such and such business is hosting this film screening that's talking exclusively about sustainability. Here's an opportunity for you to engage in this conversation in Amsterdam, in the film world. Here's an opportunity for you to engage in this conversation in the food world. Or it's kind of hoping to bridge this sort of, UvA Central, but Amsterdam as this outer space as well. So
okay,
I don't know
so is it made by the UvA Green Office?
Yeah, so the research and education team put forward the Knowledge Hub earlier this year in March, and so it's only as successful as the users who are engaging with it. And so now that it's been created, we are starting to take a look at, what does our user base look like? Is there there's value? How can we just increase that and work that? And so we're constantly improving on its design, doing what we can to spread awareness of it, whether that be talking to lecturers or just spreading it in our own personal circles as well.
Or going on a podcast.
Or going on a podcast, yes.
Yeah. Nice. So that's I think that's a very creative idea of sort of centralizing this information and having a place where people can go to and have these things.
Yeah.
But in terms of let's talk a little bit more about like sustainability within the university. So as you were saying, within the campus, last year during the student elections, I heard that there was basically like there was a party pushing towards making all food within the university vegan.
Yeah.
Was that party the UvA Green Office, or was that was the UvA Green Office sort of like pushing towards that?
The Green Office is not a political party or student political party such as UvA Social or DVS, or there are more parties now. So we are of course suggesting some proposals to the student council. As one of them, I don't think, and because last year I don't think that this proposal come up from the Green Office to the student council, but it may have in the past. But again, it's a great proposal, or a great. It's one of the proposals that we hear often. We as the Green Office, we get many insights from this. Our Instagram is full of messages. Hey, can we do something about the waste at the campus? Can we do something about the non-reusable coffee cups at the campus? And they're all great remarks, But again, sustainability, what we mentioned, it's very complex on many grounds. And again, not only to. I can also complain for 30 minutes here about how we are handling sustainability at the campus, but we have to realize, and also I was there where I was just like angry. That was the reason why I went to the student council. I was angry on how we manage the waste, and how come we have so expensive food at the cafeteria and we don't have a cutlery. I mean, I was coming from Eastern Europe where this is common base that you have food for 3 or 4 euros. This is also Germany, France. Not to only give examples from Eastern Europe, but I was shocked. We're in one of the most developed country in the EU or even in the world, and we are throwing so much waste in the bin every day. And we're talking about. I will get into it. I'm sorry, but and we're throwing these compostable trash into the bin. which is not even going to be recycled in the end, and it does not have any purpose. So anyway, that was the reason. But you have a lot of these proposals, and it's very complex to put them through, because again, the UvA is a very big organization, and stuff that is not very easy to implement. As I was saying with the example of the heating in the buildings, you know, you can't just tear apart a building. It's not the same with the canteen as per se, but there is a big problem, and that is that the UvA, for example, in your question was about the vegan food offer, the UvA rents or basically hires a private company that runs the cafeterias at the university. And again, I can be, and I was trying to do this, or at least push some more vegan and vegetarian options last year with my team and with the Green Office. And then the counter argument is, okay, we either do not have the money, or not that we don't have the money. Come on, the University of Amsterdam has a budget of 800 million euros. Even more. I'm not going to be, do not quote me on that, but it's around that money. Of course, it's a huge salaries, blah, blah, but it's one of the richest institutions in the country. And the problem is that, regarding these proposals at the canteens, if they are not going to create enough demand for that private caterer, then it's going to be very difficult to implement.
Yeah.
And then comes the question again, what Gabby was talking about in the beginning, of the institutional clash with what the individual can do as such. I mean, ultimately, if you go through this tracking of sustainability as what we three can do for sustainability as individuals. I mean, we can stop using the flights, we can stop eating meat, and you can name it all, stop using plastics as much. But in the end, you will just gather and you will see that you as an individual cannot really change much. It's probably the demand, or you have to demand from your institution to implement these changes on a large scale. Then you will get impact on a larger scale. And the problem within the university lies in the fact that we are very much following some goals, some sustainability goals. We have the white paper now, which is saying that we have some emission reductions into the year 2026. White paper is a legal document. You can all find it online. White paper UvA. But the thing is, again, on one hand, and I'm not going to go into that, but we want to do this, but then we do not want to externally fund these changes. Yep. That's the problem at the university. So on one hand, okay, let's be green. On the other hand, but that's costly. We're not going to spend much money on that. Yeah. And that's not something that you can have it. And it's striking and it's horrible that this is happening at the university level, where everybody should understand that this is something that we have to invest in. And again, we're producing all these articles as a university, but we don't have, our table is not clean.
No, and I mean, I think whether the table is clean or not, I don't think is really the focus of the UvA Green Office. I mean, as you guys said, making these changes require sort of like a bird's eye view perspective of you can't just go and change one part of the economy or the way the world works and hope it does not affect any other things. If you take off vegan food, meat eaters like me will be like, well, I'm no longer eating in the university. If you change the reusable cups, some people might like it, some people might forget their reusable cups and not be able to get coffee at school. So then what do they do? And I really enjoy the way sort of the UvA Green Office is really, again, like looking at it from a bird's eye perspective and trying to take into consideration the economy of the school, the finances of it, the social aspect of it, the actual convincing of the individual, and keeping in mind all of these different sort of like stakeholders. Now, other than these aspects that you guys want to change within the university, are there some aspects you're working on throughout this year that are maybe a difference from like consumer aspects of the university with like inside? Like you mentioned something about within the campuses, like the windows or something like that. I'm not sure how would windows help?
that was an example of maybe a fun fact for people as well. One of the greatest also individual way how to save some CO2 emissions is by turning off your heat. And the buildings and the heat that is coming out of the buildings is one of the, in theory, or in effect, one of the greatest pollutions in the cities as well. Especially, or it's a great reduction if you have the old building with old insurance systems. You are basically, I don't know what's the percentage, but a lot of your heat is going away from the building, and exactly that's what I was pointing at, the older buildings or older campus at the in the center. So you have Roosters Island, which is fairly new, and you have Science Park, which is also very new, where the heating system or the sort of the standard is very, very good. The new constructions are also going to be very good, but again, what you're this is probably something that we cannot do anything about, but it's something to point out and take into consideration again, and looking at sustainability, and that we want, on one hand, we want to try to get rid of the non-reusable coffee cups, which should be a minor issue. It really, using non-reusable coffee cups is not the biggest issue of sustainability, don't get me wrong, but it's the most easy thing to make solution, because there are so many solutions, and then it's still hard. It's still very hard to find to put it implemented at the campus. And
absolutely,
the heating problem in general in the universities is basically even greater, or it's way higher. And how can we solve that problem if we cannot solve this problem? And that's the whole problem with sustainability. Perhaps in the Western world, perhaps in it's sort of. I think that's also what's great about the Green Office, is that it shows this local problematic, and it can really, if you just look and close look at the little environment here, and if you look at the big picture, it really is sort of scary in that sense.
Yeah, I can imagine that, but
I'm sorry, but Gabby, I think is working on some great issues this year, and
I'm doing my best.
I know, but you mentioned the Knowledge Hub, and I thought that you will touch upon.
Yeah, I mean, the Knowledge Hub really is sort of the bread and butter of the research and education team right now, making sure that we create a resource that is useful and being used by UvA students, UvA professors, the city, and broader, and sort of taking us out of these little silos that we're in. Take me out of my media studies bubble and bring me into another bubble, and hear the way other students are thinking about sustainability. Because when I think about sustainability, there's just a number of things that come to my mind, and when Yvonne really thinks about it, those are different. And so the Knowledge Hub space is a way for us to have sustainability be so much more than just a reusable cup, but have us really starting to ask critical questions about our institution. Think about what does my digital carbon footprint look like? What is the history of the climate crisis? How do I engage in these conversations where accountability exceeds more than just myself?
Yeah.
And so the Knowledge Hub really is trying to do that. But we also have a Green Office podcast. So my team will be doing a series, a sustainable ADU series, talking to lecturers who are engaging in these conversations in the classroom, who are talking about the history of the climate crisis, who are asking really tough questions, and making sustainability so much more than just this individual tiny action that we can do to make change. And so the Sustainable EDU series is another exciting one. We also host a series of green talks. And so, as we start to think about sustainability and what a career in not even just a sustainability related career, but just any career in general, how you can make sustainability weave into those spaces. We invite people to talk to students and interview and share these sort of experiences. like I said, with the tech world, like, okay, you work for a tech company. That's not a sustainable company, but you can think about sustainability in the tech world, and you should be, right? And so these are ways that we can sort of address this conversation and create more awareness that's enriching, and not just the same thing over and over again that institutions like the oil and gas industry or Coca-Cola are telling us to that our actions are the only ones that are important, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think that's really interesting the way you bring it up, as in who does the accountability really go to? As in, of course, we can blame ourselves for all of these problems happening, and we can see ourselves as the ones responsible. Not to say that we are not, but not to say that we are fully.
Sure.
I mean, with the difficulty that I find within sustainability is that as much as I want to be helpful to the world, there are just certain things that are out of my hands. For example, as much as I try to reduce my carbon footprint by not flying, I cannot really go back to my country without flying unless I take a 3-day long trip.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's where it really comes down to like the one individual's choice in the moment, as in you have choice between this biodegradable paper towel or this other paper towel, and which one do you use? And hopefully people do use the better option and things like that, but hopefully also with research and education, these things can come out to those people who are actually accountable for the larger scale problems and the way they affect us.
Yeah.
But to sort of come back and kind of conclude our podcast, what are some things that you would first of all, are you recruiting any people throughout this year?
So we do have, so we had vacancies open at the beginning of the year, if you will, and expanded our teams and are now starting to operate in our teams. But we do have vacancies that sort of stay up all year round. And so, for instance, on the research and education side, if a student is trying to do some kind of sustainability related project at UvA, and they need sustainability related statistics and data and things like that, we have that. And so we can help benefit their research by partnering, where they would still maintain ownership of their research, but we can provide them with information that they need. So we always have, like research leads or research vacancies, if you will, on that side, where we can offer sort of mentorship and guidance along that space. But our website updates regularly as new sort of projects emerge, because we go into the year thinking, okay, this is what we're going to tackle, and then things come up, and that's just the nature of change. And so we do update that as vacancies do open, but I wouldn't say we're like actively recruiting our teams right now, because we just actually built our teams and are starting to really settle into the work that we're doing.
As a
with
maybe
them.
fun fact, now the Green Office consists of 60 people.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they're basically.
So when you say small team, not so small.
Not.
I mean, my team consists of 10 people.
Okay.
Great
I have a
people,
large
but
team.
Gabby is her brains are going way. I don't know, what is it, 20?
I think I have almost 20 people.
Almost 20. Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, it's the UvA Green Office is led by 6 student leads, and then each of us sort of have
Has
our
their
own
own
little,
committee,
and it's wonderful.
It's awesome. And so, okay, if you were right now directly talking to our listeners, what would you tell them is the most important takeaway about the UvA Green Office? If it was to be one message, whether it be more sustainable yourself, or whether it be come and join our team and help us out, or whether it be go scream at the canteen and tell them to put you choose. What would it be? It could be more than one message.
I think I have a message that I would just give in general to everybody, and this we can affiliate or associate it with the Green Office, but just in general, there comes a point in time where, like you said, we can hold ourselves accountable so much as the limitations of that, like with the flight situation, and sometimes we can fall into these spaces where we feel fatigue and we are. You just sort of get bogged down. Why aren't there more? Why isn't our food more cost efficient? Why aren't there more green offerings? But when we can kind of learn how to hold ourselves accountable in little ways and work through that, that really gets you to a space where you can start thinking about, okay, now how can I share this with another person and hold them accountable? Or how can we then take this to our lecture and talk to them? So if you're a communication science student listening to this talk, why aren't there any sustainability related courses in your space? These are very relevant conversations to be in the communication science domain. And sort of, it's so much more than just us. And so we can't bog ourselves down. And I think it's just important to remember that we can do what we can, and then we can hold other people accountable too. Yeah.
Absolutely, I think that's really well said. Would you have a message or something to add on to that?
Yeah, I think I really like, exactly, those kind of questions, exactly. I mean, that's where I'm coming from, what I tried to explain in my first year. I was like, how come we don't have, how come the food is, probably that was my first question. I like to save money. I was like, how come the food is so expensive? Yeah. And this has been like dragging me through 2 years, I guess, in the beginning. I couldn't understand how come this is possible, and I think, and then sort of these questions direct you to ultimately some kind of way, I think some kind of way of decision making on a greater level. Like, okay, this is done, this certain things are because how we govern ourselves, or because there are certain rules and stuff like that, certain contracts. But I think for me, like, it ultimately comes to politics and how things are being conducted. And the same cases at the UvA, I've had the chance to see it from the Central Student Council, which was a great experience and insight. And you, I think, or anyone, that's my message. And this is also a reason why I became affiliated with a part of the Green Office. And I think it's one of the tools, and you can pursue the change. Even though it's a little change, because we're still living in that's a great thing about democracy. You have to find a consensus, and there's going to be opposing side, which again, that's too broad, but where you have to sort of, if you have a change, you have ultimately a dialogue with the other side, and you can sort of find each other in the middle. But point is, really, these critical questions will get you where the change is needed, and really it's a great journey, I would say. Like, even though it's been like only not even like 3 months in the Green Office, you get to learn so much. It's and you really again become to understand problems from a very different perspective. You meet people who come from different backgrounds who can tell you, hey, it's really not that easy as you think. Like, I would be screaming like, hey, yeah, exactly, only vegan and vegetarian food. But then, it's also there is some history and process behind any decision that was taken. And that's not only like this old people, taking decisions, which we can also criticize, but there was some progress to it, even though if it was bad, if it was good, that's questionable in any specific case. But yeah, to summarize it, I think really be critical, and if you want to change something, you really should find the right tools how you want to pursue that change, because ultimately it's going to lead you the right way. If you're going to conduct a change on a private scale, that you're going to come up with a technology that will solve some issue, or if you're going to really be there at the cafeteria, as you say, and like, I want my vegan food, everything, whatever suits you as an individual, I think you should go with it and act like that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for really being here. To those listening, of course, remember to be critical. Remember to go out there and support the thing that you find the most important thing. The thing that you find to be the most important. And of course, remember to not always blame yourself for all these sustainable things. You are the person that can ultimately controls your decisions, and you don't control other people's decisions. And so with that in mind, of course, if you are interested in helping out the UvA Green Office in their mission, be sure to send them an email or reach out to them.
Follow us on Instagram. The UvA Green Office is on Instagram. We post there regularly when vacancies are open, when new projects are coming, when new events or successes are happening, and all of that. So yeah, that might, and our website too. But
and the website
social media is fun, right?
And the website is of course at uvagreenoffice.nl. And their Instagram is at uvagreenoffice.nl. And yeah, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks.
Thank you.